Welcome to Engineering Out Loud, third episode of our series from MECHESOL MESP Management Development Program titled Planning for Success.
Great to be here.
Ever feel like your engineering projects are trying to juggle too many things at once? It happens, right?
Oh, absolutely. All the time.
Today, we're diving deep into how to get crystal clear on what needs to be done, when it needs to be done, how much it'll cost, and crucially, how to make sure it's done right. Basically, all the cornerstones of project planning success.
The essentials.
And hey, if you want to really boost your own project planning skills, you can apply, register, or visit mechasolco.com/CPD for more info. Definitely check that out.
It's worth looking into. So planning. Think of it like building maybe a complex machine.
Okay.
You wouldn't just start bolting parts together, randomly, would you?
No, definitely not. That sounds like a disaster.
Exactly. You need a precise set of instructions, a blueprint. And that's really what project planning gives you for your engineering projects. A roadmap.
A roadmap. I like that. Okay, so let's kick things off with the first big area, project scope management. What exactly does that entail?
Right. So at its core, project scope management is all about defining and then controlling everything that is included in your project.
Yeah.
And just as importantly, what isn't.
Defining the boundaries.
Precisely. Drawing a very clear line that answers that fundamental question, what exactly are we building or creating here?
So it's not just the final product, the deliverable, but also all the work involved in getting there.
Exactly right. It covers all the deliverables, sure, but also the project objectives and the specific tasks needed to actually complete the project. A really well-defined scope acts like a compass.
Keeping everyone on track.
Keeps everyone aligned, yes, and helps prevent that dreaded scope creep.
Ah, scope creep, the silent killer of so many projects, where it just keeps growing and growing.
It can be. So getting that clear definition is key to avoiding it.
Okay, so how do we get that clear definition right at the start?
Well, it really begins with listening. You have to engage with everyone involved, your stakeholders. Gather their requirements meticulously. Understand their needs, their expectations. It's almost like investigative work.
Conducting interviews, getting the full picture.
Exactly. Get that complete picture of what success looks like from their perspective. Then once you've got all that input, you consolidate it, refine it, make it clear and actionable.
Taking all those pieces and forming the puzzle image.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. From maybe a collection of wishes to a concrete plan.
Got it. So what's the next step then in solidifying that, making it official?
That leads you to the scope statement. This is the formal document. It clearly outlines the project's objectives, the specific deliverables, the boundaries we talked about, and importantly, it includes the acceptance criteria.
Acceptance criteria, meaning how you know it's done and done right.
Precisely. How will we know when the work is truly complete and successful? It's the ultimate agreement, really, on what the project will deliver.
Makes perfect sense. Setting those clear expectations right up front. Okay, we have the big picture, the scope statement. How do we make that manageable? It could still be huge.
Good question. That's where the work breakdown structure, or WBS, comes into play.
WBS. Okay.
Imagine taking that overall project, that big scope, and just breaking it down, chopping it up into smaller, more manageable chunks of work. That's what the WBS does.
So it's hierarchical.
Yes, a hierarchical decomposition, breaking it down into smaller, defined, actionable tasks or work packages.
So instead of just design the new widget, it'd be more like design widget casing, design internal mechanism, test prototype, something like that.
Exactly like that. And doing this has several really big advantages. First, it translates that high-level scope into actual tasks you can assign and estimate.
Right, makes it tangible.
It clarifies who's responsible for what. It makes estimating the time and the cost for each smaller piece much, much simpler, leading to more accurate overall estimate.
Oh, okay. That's key. Better estimates.
Definitely. Plus, it gives you a visual roadmap of the entire project structure. You can see how it all fits together.
That sounds incredibly practical. Okay, so we've defined the scope, we've broken it down with the WBS. How do we, make sure we're actually delivering what we said we would deliver, staying on track?
Right, that involves two key processes, scope verification and scope control.
Verification and control.
Verification is about formally accepting the completed project deliverables. It's the process of checking did what we build match the scope statement, then getting that formal sign-off from stakeholders.
Like a quality check against the original plan.
Specifically against the scope, yes. Making sure we built the bridge we promised, not a tunnel instead.
Gotcha. And scope control.
Scope control is all about managing changes to the scope because let's face it, things change. Requirements might evolve, issues might pop up.
It happens.
It does. So you need a formal change control system. This helps you review any proposed changes, evaluate their impact on cost, on schedule, on quality, and then formally approve or reject them.
So you don't just randomly add things.
No, absolutely not. You use tools like change logs and scope change request to document everything. And transparent communication throughout this is just vital. Everyone needs to know what's changing and why.
Okay, a structured way to handle change. That makes sense. Let's shift gears a bit then. We've got the what? What about the when? Project schedule management.
Right. Schedule management. This is all about establishing a realistic, achievable timeline for all those tasks we identified in the WBS, and then tracking progress against it.
Creating the project timeline.
Essentially, yes. It involves defining the sequence of activities, what depends on what, estimating how long each task will realistically take, figuring out the resources needed, and then developing the actual schedule. And of course, controlling it.
So it's more than just a list of tasks and deadlines.
Oh, much more.
Yeah.
You define the activities from the WBS, then you sequence them, figure out the dependencies. Task B can't start until task A is finished, that sort of thing.
Logical order.
Exactly. Then you estimate the resources people, equipment needed for each activity, and estimate the duration. How long will it take with those resources?
Okay.
Based on all that, you develop the schedule itself, often using tools like Gantt charts, which are great for visualizing the timeline and dependencies.
I've seen those. They lay it all out visually.
They do. And just like with scope, schedule control is ongoing. You monitor progress, compare it to the baseline schedule, and make adjustments if things are slipping or if changes occur.
Keeping it dynamic. Now, I remember hearing about the critical path method. What's the key thing to understand about that?
The critical path method, or CPM. It's a really powerful analysis technique. It helps you identify the longest sequence of dependent tasks through the project.
The longest path determines the total time.
Exactly. That longest path is the critical path. The tasks on this path have zero float or slack.
Zero float, meaning?
Meaning any delay in any task on that critical path will directly delay the entire project's finish date. There's no wiggle room.
Ah, okay. So those are the tasks you really need to watch closely.
Precisely. It helps you focus your management attention on the most time-sensitive activities. You calculate earliest start-finish times, latest start-finish times to figure this out.
Like knowing the absolute must-make connections on a journey? Okay, that's super useful. Now the other big one, money. Project cost management. How do we keep things financially on track?
Right, cost management. This is all about planning, estimating, budgeting, and then controlling the project costs so you complete the project within the approved budget.
Staying within budget, always a challenge.
It can be. It starts with resource planning, figuring out what resources you need, people, materials, equipment, facilities, and then estimating their cost.
Forecasting all the expenses.
Exactly. There are techniques for this, like parametric estimating, where you use historical data cost per square foot, for instance, or three-point
It had
estimating.
been quiet.
Yeah, where you estimate the best case, worst case, and most likely cost, and then use a formula to get a weighted average. Gives you more realistic range.
Okay, considering different scenarios.
Right. And you'll typically categorize costs to direct costs, like labor and materials directly tied to project work, and indirect costs, like overhead or administrative support.
Got it. So once we have those estimates.
Then you move into the budgeting process. This basically involves aggregating or summing up all those individual cost estimates for the various tasks and work packages
Rolling it all up.
to establish the total project budget. This budget then becomes your cost baseline, the approved plan you'll measure against. It all ties back to a cost management plan.
The financial blueprint. So how do we make sure we actually stick to it during the project?
That's the controlling cost part. It involves diligently tracking your actual expenditures against that budget baseline. You need to know where the money is actually going.
Monitoring the spend.
And analyzing any variances, the differences between what you plan to spend and what you actually spend. If you're over budget, you need to figure out why and take corrective actions.
Makes sense. Are there specific tools for that?
Absolutely. Earned value management, EVM, is a fantastic technique here. It's powerful because it integrates scope, schedule, and cost data.
Ah, brings it all together.
It does. It lets you measure project performance and progress in a unified way. You calculate things like cost performance index, CPI, and schedule performance index, SPI, to see if you're on track, ahead, or behind, and even forecast future performance.
Sounds like a crucial dashboard for project health. Okay, we've covered scope, schedule, cost, But what about the actual quality of the work, project quality management?
Yes, absolutely critical. Quality management isn't just an afterthought. It's about ensuring the project deliverables actually meet the defined requirements and standards, and also that the project itself is executed efficiently and effectively.
So it's twofold: product quality and process quality.
You could say that. It
Yeah.
starts with quality planning. This is where you define what quality actually means for this specific project. You set clear quality objectives, often tied directly to stakeholder needs and requirements.
Defining good enough or hopefully good.
Or excellent. You develop a quality management plan that outlines the quality standards you'll adhere to, the procedures, the metrics you'll use to measure quality.
Setting the standards up front.
Exactly. Then comes quality assurance, or QA. This is more process-oriented. It's about ensuring that the project team is following the planned processes and standards correctly. Are we doing things the right way to achieve quality?
Checking the process itself.
Right. This often involves things like quality audits, reviewing project activities to verify compliance with organizational policies and project procedures.
Okay, and the other part.
That's quality control, or QC. This focuses directly on the deliverables, the results. It involves monitoring and measuring the project outputs against those quality standards we set back in the planning phase.
Checking the actual product or service.
Correct. Techniques here include things like inspection, physically examining work, testing running functional tests, documented reviews, using quality metrics and checklists to ensure requirements are met.
So assurance is about the process. Control is about the product. That helps clarify it. Now, you mentioned benchmarking when we were prepping. How does that fit in?
Benchmarking. Yeah, that's a really useful tool within quality management, particularly for driving continuous improvement.
How so?
It involves comparing your project's processes, practices, or performance metrics against benchmarks. These could be internal standards from past projects or external ones like industry best practices or competitor performance.
So seeing how you stack up.
Exactly. It helps you identify areas where you might be lagging or where there are opportunities to improve efficiency, effectiveness, or overall quality. It's about learning from others or even your own past successes and failures to elevate your game.
Setting targets based on what's achievable or even best in class.
Precisely. You identify relevant key performance indicators, KPIs, find appropriate benchmarks, and then integrate these into your quality planning and control efforts. You set ambitious yet attainable goals.
And you'd monitor against these benchmarks.
Absolutely. Regular monitoring through audits and evaluations helps you track progress, and you might need to adjust benchmarks if the project scope changes or external factors shift. It keeps quality improvement dynamic.
Learning from the best to make our projects even better. Okay, that's powerful. Now, we've talked about scope, schedule, cost, and quality individually, but they don't exist in isolation, do they?
Not at all. They are intrinsically linked. That's
Yeah.
often referred to as the triple constraint: scope, schedule, and cost.
Yeah.
Although some models now explicitly include quality, risk, and resources too.
The triple constraint, I've heard that. The idea that you can't change one without impacting the others.
Exactly. They form a triangle, and if you pull on one side, say you increase the scope, it's inevitably going to affect the schedule, the cost, or both. Or maybe quality. There's a dynamic balance.
So you need flexibility.
You need awareness and a mechanism for managing the trade-offs. This scope schedule cost synergy is vital. You need to align them carefully to meet the overall project objectives.
And when changes happen, which they do.
You need integrated change control. We touched on change control for scope, but this is broader. It's analyzing the impact of any proposed change across all constraints: scope, schedule, cost, quality, risk, resources, before making a decision.
A holistic view of change impact.
Yes. Using a formal change management system ensures changes are reviewed, approved, and communicated properly, considering all the ripple effects. Stakeholder engagement is key here when making trade-offs.
And you mentioned EVM, earned value management, before. Does that help integrate these?
It absolutely does. EVM is a prime example of an integrated tool. By combining measurements of scope completion, earned value, actual cost, AC, and planned schedule, planned value, PV, it gives you those integrated performance indicators like CPI and SPI we discussed.
So it shows how cost and schedule performance relate to the work actually getting done.
Precisely. It's a powerful way to monitor and forecast the integrated health of the project.
Okay, one last crucial area seems to be resources. Getting the right people, equipment, materials, resource allocation, and management.
Hugely important. Effective resource planning is about identifying all the resources needed: human resources, equipment, materials, facilities, and then planning how to acquire and assign them efficiently.
Matching resources to the tasks from the WBS.
Exactly. For human resources, this means developing a resource management plan, identifying required skills, acquiring the project team, and assigning roles and responsibilities. Tools like skill matrices can help match people to tasks.
Getting the right people in the right seats.
Essentially, yes. And for managing material and equipment resources, it involves scheduling their acquisition or rental, ensuring they're available when needed, and maybe implementing inventory control if you're dealing with lots of materials.
Logistics, basically.
A key part of it. And like everything else, you need to monitor and control resources. Are they being used effectively? Are we over or under allocated? You review usage reports, track performance, and adjust allocations as needed based on project progress and performance metrics.
Keeping a close eye on resource utilization. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Wow, okay. This has been incredibly insightful, covering so much ground on planning. If listeners want to really dive deeper, maybe get certified or just learn more formally.
Yeah, for that more in-depth learning, to really take your engineering project planning to the next level, I'd again point you to apply, register, or visit mechesolco.com/CPD.
Great, that's mechesolco.com/CPD. Perfect. So just to quickly wrap up then, we've explored project scope management, defining the what, project schedule management, mapping out the when, project cost management, handling the how much, and project quality management, ensuring it's done right.
And critically, how they all interconnect. The triple constraint, resource management, it's all part of the planning puzzle.
Absolutely. It really highlights how a systematic, thought-through approach to each of these areas is just fundamental for success in any engineering project, big or small.
Proactive planning really does set the stage for engineering excellence. It's about minimizing surprises and maximizing control.
Well said. A strong plan truly is the foundation. Thanks so much for sharing your expertise today.
My pleasure.
And thank you all for tuning in to this deep dive on engineering out loud.